excited today to have Julia Chayko, who I have followed her writing and her social media presence for a little while, and I'm excited to talk in real time. Welcome, and can you let us know a little bit about yourself, like where you live and what is your relationship to arthritis?
Absolutely. So hello, everyone. My name is Julia Chayko. I also go professionally by JG Chayko, and I live in Vancouver in beautiful British Columbia. You can see the background behind me is part of our lovely province here, and I have rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah, and I would love to know, start off by just discussing your diagnosis story slash diagnosis saga it sometimes becomes. What were your first symptoms and how did you get diagnosed?
Okay. So just as a little background, I come from a very active background. I'm a dancer and an actress. So when I was diagnosed probably about 13 years ago, and I was in my mid to late 30s when I was diagnosed. And I just woke up one morning. It was in November. It was the fall. It was dark and wet and cold. And I just woke up one morning feeling really like I had a fever and my joints were swollen and really sore and I felt really tired. And I thought, oh, okay, so, I've got a cold, I've got a virus, what have you. And then by mid-afternoon, I was feeling better. And then by the evening, I was even better still. So I thought, okay. So what occurred to me then is, oh, okay, so I did too much in dance class or I pushed myself too hard. So, okay, didn't think about it. Next morning, I woke up exactly the same way. Again, by mid-afternoon, I started to feel better. Again, by the evening, I was 100% better. And I'm like, odd. This continued for about 6 weeks before I decided to go to my GP. Excuse me. And I said, okay, so this is what's happening. And so he examined me, and I happened to be there in the morning when my hands were a bit swollen. And he says, oh, because I'm going to send you off to a rheumatologist. So I got into a rheumatologist very quickly. And he examined me and thought, yeah, it looks like it's early rheumatoid arthritis.
Wow.
So that's how it happened. Now it was, I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but prior to that morning, prior to when I started waking up that way, back in the spring, I had epicondylitis of my right elbow or tennis elbow. I
Mm-hmm.
had that for about a month, went away.
Hmm.
And then it showed up in my left elbow about 2 months later,
Oh,
and then it went away. So whether that was a precursor to what was coming, I have no idea. I didn't think about it at the time. The doctor said, "Oh, it's tennis elbow. Put a brace on it." Oh, okay, so I did.
yeah. Anytime,
Yeah.
typically, whenever they see pain that's quote unquote traveling from one joint to another,
Mm.
it's an indication often of something more systemic, but it could be, like you said, because it disappeared on one side and then appeared on the other, and you're so active, it could be from overuse. So that's always a tricky
Overuse. Yeah.
thing. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it sounds like once you started having that week after week after week of symptoms, like the morning stiffness, the morning fever-ish feeling, that is also a data point that's often signifying this is something bigger, and especially with it getting better in each evening. So I'm glad you got, referred to a rheumatologist and got your diagnosis early.
Yeah, I was very lucky. I had a very good GP, and he just right from the get-go. I mean, I wasn't even in there very long. He just looked at my joints and went, "Okay, we're going to send you off to a rheumatologist." I was like, "Okay."
That's Oh my gosh, I just interviewed someone earlier this week, and it's just fresh in my mind, where they had to beg and beg and beg over and over again to get taken seriously. And so it's great to hear the positive stories of, like, this is how it's supposed to be, you know? But even
Yeah, yeah.
so, what was it is a strange thing to be a quote unquote a younger person, in your 30s, getting diagnosed with something with arthritis in the name. Like when I was 20, I got diagnosed. That was really confusing to me. Like, what was your response, emotionally to the diagnosis?
I think I was just surprised, quite frankly. Like
Mhm.
it didn't run in my family to my knowledge. Now, it's entirely possible my grandmother could have had it undiagnosed. I have no idea. But I guess I was surprised because, you're young, you're fit, you're healthy. I mean, I was a really active person, so I was just kind of going, now, how is that possible? And then sort of wrapping your head around the fact that it was nothing that I did or didn't do, and it was just, it is like you said, a systemic disease. It's your immune system just sort of turning on you. And yeah,
Uh,
so I think really I was just a bit thrown off, like really? Like even when he was saying it to me, I was sitting there going, arthritis, really? Yeah.
Same, same. And I love what you said about you were, you you were came to to the realization that it was nothing that you did. How did you come to that? Like you didn't cause this in some way by whatever. But I think a lot of people have this sense of guilt. Like maybe if I had eaten better, if I had exercised more, which in your case you were active, but if I had managed my stress better, quote unquote, I wouldn't have gotten it. So how did you learn to get rid of that? Or how did you learn that it wasn't your fault that you got this?
Well, I actually did work in medical for a little while. So I was a part-time worker in a medical office.
Wow.
So the understanding of an autoimmune condition was not new to me.
Mm.
What was new to me is that I had it.
Yeah.
Right. So that was new, but I already sort of understood that it was nothing that, this is a type of disease that you can't control. You don't know when it's going to come. You don't know, there's nothing you could do to prevent it if you were going to get it,
Hmm.
right? So,
But that's huge. So many people struggle with that. So I think that's like you're already um in a I would almost say I don't want to say a more healthy mental state when you alleviate that burden of guilt from yourself. So
yeah,
I think that's
100%.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it is helpful that because I had a background in working in medical, that it was easier for me to understand and, kind of make the plan of what to do next and sort of
Yeah.
cope with it more than somebody who doesn't have that background or understanding. And then it's a big shock to them, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so what I always like to go in a little bit however much you want to share about your treatment plan or your treatment journey because oftentimes it's sometimes I meet people where it's linear. Like I've been on the same medicine for 10 years. I'm like, "Whoa, that's awesome." And it works. Whereas other people
Yeah.
it's more up and down. You got to change this, titrate this. So what is your treatment journey been like? When I say treatment, I mean like medical treatments.
Yeah. Yeah. So, they did start me on a first line medication. And I was on that for a little while. And they also, and then I would go in, every 3 to 6 months to see how I was doing. They eventually added a second one as the disease progressed. And they eventually added a third one. So now we could say that I was on triple therapy, right? Um, and then I would say in the last 4 or 5 years, I dropped one of the medications. I got off it because I found that the side effects were just too much to deal with. Like the side effects were worse than the disease itself. So now I'm back to two medications, and it's those two that I'm still on that have worked in sort of controlling, the biggest part, like the inflammation. Now, I do get flare-ups like everybody does. Even when you're on medication, you still get flare-ups occasionally. It's not the miracle cure. So there are other ways to sort of take control and, I guess enhance your own treatment by going to an occupational therapist and learning, how to, adjust to things in the kitchen, in at work, et cetera, et cetera. Physiotherapy 100% teaches you, how to do exercises that will take the pressure off your joints, but keep you moving and keep your muscles strong. Now, physically as a dancer, I had all that background, that base, that muscle base. And for me, it was really about learning to move now without hurting my joints or without, causing injury to my joints. So there was some adaptation there and trying to figure out, how far could I go and what could I still do dance wise. So obviously, I was a ballet dancer for a long time. That went right out the window. Because ballet in itself, without a disease, is probably the worst thing for your body.
It's true.
You
I've
know,
seen
they,
pictures of ballet
yeah,
dancers' feet and I'm like, whoa, that's brutal. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah, and I do have my feet are not the healthiest feet
Hmm.
but it's not really the disease that did that. It was the years of dance and being in the shoes and on point and all of that. So ballet is that dance that looks so beautiful and natural, but it is so not because your body is not meant to turn that way. You have the turnout of your hips and it's a tough one on the body for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
when I facilitate the Room to Thrive support groups, a lot of times we talk about our valued activities and our hobbies and what brings our life joy and meaning. And having to give up something that's a big part of your life can be so challenging emotionally. I'm wondering, um, was it hard to give up ballet, or what did you do instead of ballet? Or yeah, I would love to hear more about that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. It was hard to give up ballet because it was the first dance I learned and I loved it. But the thing with it is that there are other dances that you can still do that aren't quite as hard on the body. So, I've taken a lot of dance over the years, so ballet, tap, modern swing, ballroom, etc. Right? So I think what I did is I moved from ballet into like the Latin dances, into salsa and bachata and those dances. And they were better, they were easier to do physically. But then even with those, it got a little difficult because if you don't have a partner that is experienced in those dances, then they grab your hand the wrong way, they hold it too hard, they grab your elbow the wrong way, right? So it it's sort
Mhm.
of it was difficult to sort of go to those dances and then, come away feeling like, okay, well, now my elbow is sore because so and so grabbed it the wrong way when he did, led me into a cross body lead or a spin or something, right? So even
Yeah.
that got a little sticky. So what I did instead is my husband and I signed up for beginner ballroom. Now, I'm not a beginner at all, but he was, but because I trusted him, that he knew, my body and what hurt, and he knew exactly the amount of pressure to put on my hands or my shoulder or my elbow so that I wouldn't get hurt. So there was that. There was still that way of moving forward in dance. And the other thing I did is I started choreographing. So
Nice.
I'm an actress as well as a dancer. So I've been on stage since I was maybe 12 acting. So I've danced since I was 5. I've been on stage since I was 12 acting. And so what I
Wow.
did is I went back to the theater as a choreographer. So my first big project was in 2017 when I got to choreograph a children's panto, and it was based on The Wizard of Oz, which was a lot of fun. And so I got to choreograph about 6 or 7 songs for a group of 14. And so it was just a wonderful experience. And it was really a way to stay in my dance world, to do the teaching instead of actually doing the dancing.
I love that.
Yeah.
I really love that. I had this same experience with swing dancing, that when my disease was in remission, I was able to dance just like anyone who didn't have rheumatoid arthritis, although I probably should have thought a little more about protecting my joints. Um, because it is a lot of swing and Lindy Hop, the kind there's a lot of traction, the pulling on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
joints. But long story short, once my disease got less well controlled, it's hard. My favorite part about swing was social dancing, dancing with different partners, making friends. And it was hard to have to be like, wait, I still want to experience the social, the musical, the athletic release, but it's too hard. It's too dangerous to dance with a bunch of different people I don't know. So I started teaching too. So I think it's just a beautiful example of, how you may have to interact differently with your favorite activities, but you can find new
hmm
ways to do them. Or for some people, it can be
yeah,
discovering a different activity. Like sometimes your other activity, like rock climbing is one. I've been had some people in the groups have rock climbing, and that's a pretty challenging one to find
that
yeah,
is.
there's bouldering, which is where you're not actually climbing up, you're not using the harness and everything. So there's kind of substitute things, but it's there's a grief. Sometimes there's a grief when you like, I'm curious if you ever had that feeling of grief where I'm in this body. I used to be able to kind of have my brain tells my body to do something and it just happens. And now there's this resistance because of the arthritis, or, was that hard, like embodying your body? Is that a word? Was it hard?
Embodying your
Yeah.
body.
Is it hard to embody your body? No, it was hard to live in a body that suddenly was not moving with the same ease as before.
Yeah, I mean it was, but I didn't actually find any grief in it
Oh, good.
personally. I got frustrated, sure, because I'm not the most patient person on the planet
Me
sometimes.
too.
So I'd get frustrated, but really it's if you take the time, there's always little adjustments and modifications that you can make. And it really is about learning what they are and just when you have that impulse to do something, your brain says to your body to do this, that
Yeah.
you need to take that moment to go, wait a minute. Now, can I actually do that without
Yeah.
hurting myself or bringing any pain? Is there an easier way to do this that isn't going to you know hurt me or give me a setback of some sorts, right?
Yeah, you seem to be a very
Yeah.
adept problem solver. Like, I feel like you
I
are,
think you have to be.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have to be with chronic illness. I just don't think it gives you any other choice. You
Yeah,
you either become an adept problem solver or you sit and wallow in the corner, right?
yeah,
And nobody wants to do that. So
no.
you need to, and it can take time. It's not something that happens quickly. It's a learning curve. It's something you have to learn over time. So
Mhm.
you have to develop a lot of patience.
Yeah, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I will say, I think it's okay to allow yourself permission to wallow for moments, just we don't want to get stuck in the
Mhm.
wallowing. But sometimes I do allow at least myself to have a little pity party, be like, yeah, this is frustrating, I wish my life was easier in respect to health, but this, then at some point
Yeah.
it's not helpful to stay there forever. But I just, yeah, I just think I think that the people that are able to have the best quality of life are the ones that are able to do what you were embodying
Yeah.
through your attitude about your condition.
Yeah. And I think we are all capable of doing it, but I think it takes people just different it takes some people longer to get there. And it's just really
Mhm.
about learning because we all share, like we may share the same disease, but we don't experience it the same way. And that's
Mm,
huge, because it's so individual to you, right? Like,
yes.
I don't we don't all share the same symptoms at the same times or in the same moments. So it's very much, really looking at yourself and understanding when it's time to take a moment to step back or, push yourself forward, right?
Hmm. And I wonder if your background as a dancer helped you be in touch with your body. Like I felt that from being a soccer player. Like I could tell the difference between muscle pain from maybe overactivity versus joint pain from my inflammation. Like it was
Yeah,
not too difficult for me to suss that out initially. But I know people who don't have any sort of relationship to exercise or athleticism or dance, it can be hard to get.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult, but yeah, I think, I know my body pretty well.
Yeah.
And as a dancer, I mean, I don't know how many times I have fallen or, somebody has dropped you. Like that happens, right? When you're in partner,
Yep.
dancers are used to getting hurt. They're used to sprains, they're used to bruises, they're used to, just muscle strains and pulled tendons and all of those things.
Mhm.
So, and I guess I know what that feels like in the body, so I can distinguish that from, okay, so this is a muscle strain from my doing this, bending too far in yoga,
Yeah.
versus, versus when my arthritis flares up and I'm having inflammation in the hands and,
Mhm.
it's all swollen and sore. And it's like, yeah, it's a different feeling, and you start to recognize that. But again, with some people, that can also take time
Yes.
to understand that the different pain that you feel and what causes it, right?
Mhm.
And that can be frustrating, but I think I think it's important just to allow yourself that time, to be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up about it, right? Just take a moment, acknowledge it, and
I love that. I love that. The patience is so key. Yeah, and I was so impatient initially. I was like, just figure this out. I got to figure this out, and then I'll get to this point where I conquered arthritis and that I can move on with my life, not realizing that maybe I need to live with this. You know,
right.
and make it kind of go away. But I definitely want to delve more into, your, to me, fascinating life of a creative life with rheumatoid arthritis. You've already pre-diagnosis, you have a history of being an actress, and you have done poetry and writing and dancing. And so I'm like, where do I even get started? But what you said, you started acting when you were much younger. And what has it been like to do these creative pursuits, with arthritis or anything you want to share about it?
Yeah. So, with the acting, with the stage acting, so pre-diagnosis, I was doing 3 to 4 shows a year.
Mhm.
And it is a lot of time and energy to do these shows because it is 3 months of rehearsals and then 4 weeks of performance,
Mhm.
right? So you need to be alert, you need to be energetic, you need to be well, you need to be able to push through. So after diagnosis, I probably took a break from the stage for about 2, 3 years, just so that I could get my disease under control, right? So take the time to find out what medications are working, how do we control it, doing the physio, all of that stuff. And then so now when I go back on stage now, I probably do 1 to 2 shows a year versus 3 to 4. So it's still there. It's still in my life. It's just not as, extensive as it was. And that's fine. But it's still there in some way. Like I just finished in September, August, September. So in September, I just finished, I started choreographing a musical
Ooh,
called The Marvelous Wonderettes.
oh, no.
And that was 3 months of rehearsals of choreographing 33 songs for 4 women.
Wow.
And, it's songs from the 50s and 60s. So it's the 50s and 60s dance style. But I think, that was probably one of the most challenging things I'd had to do in a very long time. And I really had to plan that out. So first I had to sit down when I was offered that opportunity. I had to sit down and go, okay, do I have the stamina to do this?
Yeah.
Like, can I do this? It's 3 months of rehearsals. Now, once the show goes up, I'm out of it. It's all them.
Yeah.
It's all the girls performing. But it's still 33 songs that I have to
Wow.
choreograph for these girls.
Mm.
And so I really just I sat down and went, okay. So I wanted to do it, so I did it. And what I had to do each day was basically sit down and plan my day and go, okay, what are my priorities and what do I need to get done first?
Yeah.
And then after a rehearsal night, which is probably rehearsals are about 3 hours a night. So after a rehearsal night, that second day where I don't have a rehearsal and I have time off,
Mhm.
I have to prioritize a rest.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the next day I get back to creating the dance again and go off to rehearsal. But it really is about sitting there and going, okay, let's look at my day, see what I can do in the morning that's not going to exhaust me or take away the energy that I need when I go into the theater and start teaching these girls, right? It's planning. It's really organization and planning.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people that think I can just do it all.
Oh yeah.
So I'll sit down on my day planner and write 10 things and go, I'm going to do all of this. And, I usually end up doing two, right? So it's just
Yes.
like, yeah. So now when I was planning the rehearsals, I sat there and go, okay, what can I realistically do today, this
Yeah.
morning, say in the one aspect, say my work and my work writing life? How much can I actually do this morning? Take that break after I do it and then move on to the other aspect of my life. But it really is planning. It really is sitting there and allowing yourself that break and
Yeah.
not feeling that you're a failure because you have to take that break,
Yes.
right? It's giving yourself the grace to go, this is fine. I need this rest. It's good for me. It's good for my body. It's good for, my mental state.
Mm.
And it's okay to do this. You're not lazy. You're not unproductive. This
No.
is part of your rest is part of being productive, right?
Yeah, and it's
So,
also honoring, what you wouldn't feel guilty for eating food. Like your body needs food to survive, right? You need a
absolutely.
rest and sleep to survive. And that's kind of how what I remind myself. And different bodies need different amounts of rest. I think it was
Hmm.
like Bill Clinton famously only needed like 4 hours of sleep or rest, like or 4 hours of sleep a night. Like some people are lucky that they can get by with less, but like even before my diagnosis, I was a big sleep prioritizer. Like I played college soccer, Division 3, but we would, the team would want to like hang out for, late before the game. I'd be like, no, I got to get my sleep. I got to get my sleep. This is before my diagnosis, even, or even in high school, I got to go home and sleep, so that's, I've always been like a morning person and like kind of get tired at night. So, but it's definitely more, I think your point is so well taken that, having an autoimmune condition really necessitates like sleep is not it's not a luxury, it's a need, and not just sleep
It's a
but
necessary. Yeah.
rest. I do a lot of also giving looking at my schedule, like look at my schedule, look at what I want to do, and then like take things away from it because I know that I
Mhm.
can't do everything I want to do, or say, okay, can I push this to next week and make sure I build in like a rest break in my day every day. It makes a huge difference. Yeah, I love the choreographing third. I mean, just as somebody who's choreographed a little bit of Lindy Hop and swing routines before. Whew, 33 songs that is a
Yeah,
lot of
it was a
work.
lot. It was a lot of songs. But the
Yeah.
show did amazing, but the show did very well. So I was really proud because they had almost sold out performances every night and they got standing ovations. So,
Yeah.
and it helps that we cast the right cast, the perfect four girls that just came together so well and worked so hard and put on a beautiful, beautiful show. So,
That's awesome. And another thing
yeah.
I know that you love to do is writing. I know you've written for Creaky
Mhm.
Joints and for your own website, jgchayko.com, and written about your experiences with your condition and what um how has writing, I guess, or what has the role of writing been for you?
Oh gosh, that's a tough question because I've been writing since I was 5.
Yeah.
And so I always knew that I would be a writer.
Hmm.
I knew that right from the time I was 5 years old. I was going to be a writer. And I started writing poems when I was 5. Um, my great grandmother insisted on thank you notes, as all grandparents did. And to prevent myself from being bored writing those thank you notes, I wrote her poems and I wrote her short stories.
That's so sweet.
And she would say to my parents, yeah, she would say to my parents, she's going to be a writer. And I always wanted to be a writer. But I always thought that I would be a writer after all the dance and theater was done. So later in my life, right? I was looking at it as the sort of later part of my life when I didn't have the energy to do the dance and theater anymore. And then that would be my artistic. So I would go from the stage to the page, so to speak,
You
right?
really are.
And
You are an excellent planner. I really have to give you this. Like you had it planned out. I love this. This is amazing. Okay. So the stage to the page.
yeah, I knew, yeah, the stage of the page. I knew right from the get-go, right when I was a kid. So I've lived an artistic life my whole life, and that was all I ever wanted. I just wanted to be on stage. I wanted to be an actress. I did stage. I did a little bit of film. Film, that's all right. But the stage is the live stage is the exciting,
Yeah. Okay.
the exciting challenge. Because, with the stage, you don't get to say cut and do that scene again. It's live. It's happening right there. So the challenge is you need to know your character and your lines and everybody else's lines good enough to be able to cover if somebody should do this to you in the middle of the show. Right? So you get the deer in the headlight look when another actor forgets their lines. It's like, and
Yeah.
so you have to be on your toes to be able to save them or
Yeah.
if or
Yeah.
have them save you, whichever happens. But I always knew that I was going to be on the stage, and that's all I ever wanted to do. And that was my single focus through my whole life. And I always knew that I was going to write. That, and I wrote even all those years that I was on the stage and even pre-diagnosis. I wrote stories. I started novels. I wrote just knowing that at some point this is where I was going to head. And actually being diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis kind of gave me that kind of wake up call of what am I waiting for? Why can't I write now?
Yeah.
Right? Like why do I have to
Mm.
wait until I'm practically retired to do it? Why don't I just do it now? And so the first story that I ever got published was about my great grandmother and the farm that she lived on. And she was the one who
Yeah.
said she's going to be a writer. So I found it almost like providence that this was the story that the first story I ever wrote, the first story that I ever submitted got published. And that just told me everything right
Wow.
there. I was like, okay, what
That
am I
is so that's so powerful. That's so I mean, and one of my selfish reasons for wanting to talk to you is that I want to write a book too. So I'm like, let me figure out her secrets. No, but I also wanted to like touch base with the kindred spirit because I'm similar. I love writing. I actually love it so much. I didn't want to do it for a job because I was like, I worry that making something you love that much as your job would make it not fun anymore. And like, I have
Yeah.
multiple like journalists in my family and people who do amazing work. But anyway, long story short, relating to you, like, I did the same. I didn't actually start writing anything publicly until after my diagnosis as well. But your aha moment or your moment of clarity of like, what am I waiting for? That was a little more deeper than mine. Mine was more just like people were like, you should have a blog because you like speaking about this stuff. Like I was speaking like Arthritis Foundation. They're like, where can I learn more? And I was like, I guess I should have a
Yeah.
blog. People are blogging. People be blogging. That's what they do. These kids do these days. So,
Yeah.
but but sorry. I'm sorry. I'm working on not like immediately responding with my story, but it's kind of partly how I relate, but also but I want to focus on your story because you are my guest. This is not a solo episode. Yeah. And
So just let me
I
tell
love
you
your
that if you ever embark on writing a book, it is a huge job. It is a big job. And I've got 4 of them right now on the go. I have 4 novels that I'm working on, and they're all 4 different genres. And most writers will be working on more than one project because, what we call the middle of the story, I like to call the muddle of the story, is the hardest part to get through. It's really
Yes.
hard. You have your beginning, you have your end, but then you have this mushy middle, this muddle that you have to pull through and tie these two things, these two bookends together. And it's really, really hard. So I have multiple projects that if I'm working on one and it just isn't happening and the words aren't coming and there's nowhere to go, okay, let's put that one aside for a little while and let's move on to this one and see if this one, you know, kind of goes.
That
Yeah,
that's great.
it's
That's music to my ears actually, because I find it very hard to just focus on one project at a time. But the other thing I find hard is actually finishing the projects I started. So I'm like very proud of myself for finishing my course, the Rheumatoid Thrive, there's a self-paced course and then there's a support group. And then I finished, or I'm in the process of this podcast. So I'm like, okay, I do finish things, but yeah, I have to watch out for that desire, I have the kind of ADHD where you want to like start things. Like some people have the kind of ADHD where they have a hard time getting started and they procrastinate. And I'm like, no, I get started. Woohoo, let's go. Let's start it again. Oh, and
yeah,
then like they call it like your ADHD hobby graveyard where you have, like I'm going to learn to knit. I'm going to learn to crochet. I'm going to learn this. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to
yeah.
write a short story. I'm going to write a poem. Like, oh, my desktop is full of projects. But yeah, that's great to hear that it's normal to have multiple projects. And are your novels, do you mind sharing what they're going to be about, or should we like stay tuned?
Yeah, I can generally give you an idea. So, one of the novels that I'm about probably 50 to 60% through is a thriller. More like a domestic suspense, I think they call it. And it's about a female serial killer in a small town.
Okay.
Um, Yeah, so, another one of the books that I'm working on is based on my great grandmother on my mother's side of the family. So this is a different great grandmother, not the one who said I was going to be a writer.
Mhm.
So the great grandmother on my mother's side of the family who was a vaudeville actress in England and New York. And so, and that's probably where I get it from. It's probably, and I'm the only person in my family since her to be on the stage and to sort of live this creative acting life, right? So I feel like she has somehow, embodied me and get on that stage. But I had the absolute joy of being able to go to England this year and just do some research on the places that she had performed in the spaces that she'd been in. It's really powerful sort of to be walking in your ancestors' footsteps and knowing that they walked there too. And I also got to go to New York and do some research there, because she passed away in New York in the early 1900s. So we went there to find where she was buried. We went there to find her resting place, and we did, and it was just an amazing thing. My mother never knew her because she passed before my mother was even a blink in anybody's eye. But
Okay.
yeah,
Wow, that's so meaningful, and I love that. I love all the vaudeville ephemera, I think it's called, like this. Like I've gone to I don't know if this is maybe the same time period, but I really love in San Francisco. They have the old like penny arcade where they have the old, how they used to have the they call it like arcade games. I know it's not the same exact thing as vaudeville, but sometimes they had those, at the same places. And just seeing this handmade, hand carved, things from those eras, and it's beautiful. That's so great. Yeah, you have that string. Taylor Swift calls it the invisible string. I don't know if you are a fan of her music, but I
yeah.
love her. But yeah, that kind of invisible string tying your great grandmother to you. That's beautiful.
Oh, I was given. because I know that you are a Swiftie
Yeah.
and that you make the little bracelets. So one
Yeah.
of the girls from our cast actually made me a little beaded bracelet with the word choreographer on it, and it was beautiful. It's amazing.
Oh, oh,
Yeah,
that's so
yeah,
fun. Yeah, that's
yeah.
that's a fun. That's a fun hobby, making the bracelets.
She's a Swiftie
And then
too,
okay,
so
so
I kind of got that and went, oh, okay, I know where this came from.
yes, yes, she's revived the art of friendship bracelet making.
Right?
Yeah. So yeah. Well, that's two of the novels. What about the other two? Or are they kind of still morphing?
They're still in progress. One is kind of a literary novel. It's character based, and it was an idea I got when we were in Portugal last year, and it was just
Okay.
something that came to me. So of course I wrote it down and started, you know, writing through it. And the other one I kind of got idea in the summer, and it's, I guess you would call it a fantasy romance. Um,
Ooh.
Yeah, and I'm not one to really write romance. Most of my writing, other than my arthritis writing, which I try to keep as upbeat and positive as possible and sort of show you, you know, a better, a way to find joy in your life. My
Yes.
fiction stuff generally tends to be darker. I mean, Stephen King was a huge influence to me, and I love his writing, and I love, so my fiction stuff doesn't usually tend to be light and fluffy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But this one I think is a little more on the lighter side. So
And sometimes, I was talking with another person who she has psoriatic arthritis, Nitika Chopra. She has a podcast and she has a similar kind of supportive community that I've had. We both are, we have similar dreams and goals for helping support people with inflammatory arthritis. And we were joking because we're like, well, we have podcasts that are like about arthritis, but in our free time, our spare time, I don't listen to arthritis podcasts. I listen to podcasts about things totally different. I listen to
yeah,
podcasts about music and pop culture and random debates like John Hodgman about like, is a hot dog a sandwich? Just like fun, funny stuff. So sometimes it's like, yeah, your whole life, even though ironically I called, my podcast and my organization is called Arthritis Life. My whole life is not about arthritis. It's kind of about living a beautiful, full life with arthritis. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, you can't get rid of it. It's there. It's part of you.
yeah.
But it doesn't have to take center stage.
Oh,
That's the way I see it.
perfect metaphor from a choreographer. It's on stage left.
Doesn't That's right. It's in the wings, actually.
Yeah,
I try to keep it in the wings.
it's the thing in the trap door, or what do they call it? The door that something just sometimes randomly pops out of, and then you push it back down under the trap door. No, but yeah,
Or in the orchestra pit,
yes,
right? In the
yeah.
orchestra pit.
Oh man, don't ever go down the side note. Don't ever go down the YouTube rabbit hole of like actors accidentally falling into the stage pit, because I got onto that at one point and I was like, get me off of here. I can't handle this. This is too scary. But you
It happens.
um yeah, I on the same note you were talking about with, having your arthritis be part of your life but not the center stage. Before we recorded, I asked you some of the what are you most passionate about, sharing about from your story. And one of the things I loved how you said this. You said you want to share how you balance honoring the life I had before honoring the life I had before instead of grieving it. So earlier I used the word grief and I apologize because I think I had it in
Okay.
my head, but yeah, you were saying, how do you want to share how you've gotten to that place? And what would you add to what you already said?
Well, so I have read a lot of stories of people with arthritis who talk about having grieving their past life.
Yes.
I don't know if they actually mean to grieve it, but I think what they mean is they let go of it.
Mm.
Um, I personally, and we all have our ways of coping, right? You have to acknowledge that you are in a new space in your life. But I don't think me, I don't grieve my past life. I honor it and I celebrate it because I look at it and go, look what I got to do. before I got to this moment. And it's not gone. It's never gone. No one can take it away from you. Nothing can take it away from you because it's already been done. And it's part of you. And when you move forward, you're taking it with you. You're taking that with you, right? It's etched into your body. It's etched into your memory. It's etched into your bones. Um, so for me, it's I sit there and I kind of go, yeah, this is what I had done in the past. And a part of that is still with me, even as I move forward.
Oh,
Now, am I going to be able to go forward on the exact same path? Probably not. But that doesn't mean there's no path.
mhm.
And, when you have that, when you have your past with you and all the accomplishments that you had, I think it's a springboard for moving forward because it's like little branches coming off the main tree, right? So it's the tree of what you have built. But there's always a way to branch out into a different direction
Mhm.
from that base. So that's what I mean when I say I don't grieve it because it's never gone. It's always here. It's always with you. um, and I realize that people they have to cope with their change in life,
Mm.
and we all should sit down and acknowledge that, and they have to do it in their own way.
Yeah.
And so this is the way I choose to do it, right? I choose to sit there and go, I did that, and it's still with me. It's still part of me. It's not gone. So
Mm.
there's nothing to grieve because it's still here. It's just transformed in a different way. It's just different,
Yeah.
right? So that's what I mean when I say that I don't grieve my past life.
I
Pre-diagnosis. I'm still alive, clearly.
That's unless we were all in a simulation. Yes. That no, that's I've never thought of it that way. I kind of found myself taking a deep breath as you were talking about it's still with you. Like for me, the first thing that came up was soccer, not being being an athlete was a huge part of my identity. Now people associate me with being a dancer because I that was my switch. I switched from soccer to swing dancing when got after I got my diagnosis. And that's how I met my husband. It's been a huge part of my life. But yeah, it's like you're so right. It's not like I'm a former soccer player. Well, it's still my past is with me and it does come up and that competitive spirit and that pushing through, like, hey, we gotta, we're gonna get through this. That team spirit part of me, it's still I love that. It's still part of you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the grief can come from my experience and it might be semantics, but is often that I want to still be able to do XYZ that was easier for me
Yeah.
or possible for me prior to my diagnosis. And I cannot do that right now. And that I want to keep doing it to the future. So I'm glad I could do it in the past, but I can't do it now or in the future. And that's
Yeah.
bumming me out.
Yeah. And I look at
But
it too as even if we weren't diagnosed, like even if we didn't have arthritis, at some point you'd have to stop playing soccer anyway,
mhm,
because it would be an aging thing, right? And
yeah.
figure skaters have to stop skating at a certain age, dancers have to stop dancing at a certain age, hockey players have to retire at a certain age. So it just came
Yeah.
earlier for us because of the disease, but the concept is still the same. Because when all these athletes retire from what they were doing, they have to go on to something else. And again, they take that spirit, as you say, of everything they did with them going forward onto a new
Mhm.
path, growing a
Yeah.
new branch off that tree, right? Yeah.
That's so beautiful. I really love that. And it's such a point well taken um, that we're going to have limitations. We're limited by being human, being human, needing to sleep. It's this is related, but it's kind of a side note, but related. My son, and at one point he was kind of going through a phase. He's 9 now, but where he was like, I'm so mad that I have to sleep because I have so many things I want to do. He wants to read more. He wants to talk to his friends. He wants to play with his Legos. He wants all these things. And he's like, oh, I'm so frustrated that I have to sleep. And I was like, we all have to go through that phase of like, yeah, I wish I didn't need to sleep. I could get so much more done. But like, and even if we didn't sleep, there are still only 24 hours in the day. So I think that's just a super healthy mindset to remind yourself it's not just arthritis that limits you from doing every
Yeah.
single possible thing you could ever want to do in your life. It's
Yeah.
it's being a human.
It's There's lots of factors, right? Right. It's just we ended up with the chronic illness factor.
Mhm.
But yeah, it just happened a little earlier with us, but we can still take what we had and bring it with us forward, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I
It's,
think a lot of people kind of define their expectations for the future, um, as everyone kind of, unless they've already had a chronic illness, most people just assume I'm going to be healthy until I'm quote unquote old, which no one really defines what that actually means. Does that mean 65 is a definition of, retirement age in the US? Is it 85? I took swing dancing lessons from 90-year-old Frankie Manning, who was one of the founders of,
nice.
Lindy Hop in Harlem in the 30s and 40s. And, so who knows? But anyway, point being, the more we can extract ourselves, I think, from that expectation that the only good life is a healthy, able-bodied life is, for
Right.
me, important. Um,
Right.
I'm just
Yeah.
curious, I didn't tell you this question ahead of time, so feel free to like not answer it, but you seem very mentally healthy. I'm laughing at myself. Like, I don't know if that's, did you ever go to therapy?
Oh,
Like, how are you like,
no.
how can we all be like you? How are you?
Not at all. Not at all. I I don't know how to
I
answer that.
know.
I'd like to be able to answer
You're
that, but
like,
no. I never went to therapy, but I don't know. I think you know, if okay, if we're gonna get into the deep thing here,
yeah.
acting itself is therapy.
You think what?
Acting
Oh,
itself is
okay.
therapy.
Okay.
Acting is therapy because you go through so many transformations and so many characters.
Mhm.
There's comedies, there's tragedies, I've played a couple of roles where I had to cry on cue on stage,
Mm.
right, in front of a live audience, right? So I mean, yeah, acting itself is therapy. So I guess I've gone through, the whole, acting thing, but professional therapy, probably no, I've never had that.
No, and thank you. No, I think that's first of all, thank you for allowing me to put you on the spot like that. I'm trying to I'm pretty in touch with at least some of the people in the audience of this podcast. Not everyone like sends me messages or anything, but I think a lot of times I try to anticipate, like, if someone's listening to this podcast, what do they want? What are they wishing that I ask the person? And like one time I asked someone like, like, yeah, are you religious, or like how are you like so mentally stable? Is it genetics? Is it, yeah, maybe it is
Could be.
family
Yeah.
upbringing. There's always so many factors, having a strong, like, do you have a strong support system, do you think?
I think I do.
Yeah.
I think I do. I've also I'm very extremely independent, and I always have been.
Okay.
Um, and I think maybe this is it. I moved around a lot when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
And I moved around a lot when I was a teenager, and I moved around a lot when I was an adult. And I think what that has done is just made me adapt to every new change and every new situation. It forced me to, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So I think I sat down and counted how many times I had moved in my life, and I think it came to something like 25 to 26 times that I have moved, from one
Wow.
place to another. And I'm not talking different countries. I mean, just within this own province, I have moved into a whole bunch of like 26 times. And it's just things that you
Wow.
can't control, right? So your parents sell their house and they want to move somewhere else, right? So your child, you have to go with them, can't control that. So
Mhm.
you're put into new schools all the time and you have to sort of find a way to cope with that, right?
Yeah.
As an adult, you're renting a place with your partner, they're going to sell that place. So you have to find somewhere else to rent. Or you break up with your partner and you have to go and find somewhere else to live. So I think maybe that may have had a very big role in shaping who I
Yeah.
am and how I cope with, things. And then honestly, living as an artist in the theater as a writer, it's not the most stable profession on the planet ever. And really, it is a lot of uncertainty and moving,
Yeah.
moving forward. So I think all of that in the background has, you know, possibly created where I am mentally and how I, yeah.
Well, yeah, and to be a little more coherent, I like one of my purposes in this podcast is helping people learn how to thrive with with inflammatory arthritis or autoimmune arthritis like we both have. And so there's so many different ways to get there, and there's different personalities, different, some are introverts, some are extroverts, some are interested in sports, some are interested in acting. So I think it's just really illustrative, hopefully, for the people listening to see like, okay, this is how Julia did it, or does it. And not to say that you've like reached this pinnacle of like, I don't want to put you on I don't want to like put pressure on you, put you on a pedestal, like her life's perfect. And if you just do what she did, you're gonna be perfect. No, no one's life.
No,
Yeah.
no, no
Uh,
life, no life is perfect, not even mine.
yeah, yeah.
Everybody has
But I
everybody
think
has their challenges, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And but that I think you really I think your I think your theory on yourself is correct. That I think that moving around as I'm laughing because it's like I don't know you that well. So I'm like, of course, whatever you say is way more correct than anything I can observe. But I'm somebody who I I would love to still go back and live in my childhood home with my parents and my husband and my child. Like that's how attached I am to like things staying the same.
Uh,
So, and my childhood home is 15 minutes away from where I live, and it's where I'm
wow.
going to be going on Christmas. So not that for me is there is learning that you've like moved to 20, 25 times as a child makes complete sense that you would develop this adaptability, flexibility, resiliency, and sense of who you are. You are the
Hmm.
constant, versus being defined by your
Yeah.
situation and your environment. So
Hmm.
that's really incredible to me. And yeah, I hope that everyone listening is or I hope it's inspiring to the people listening. I think it will be. So this has just been, I just love talking to you, but I do want to respect your time and the time of people listening. But so we have a set of rapid fire questions. And
Okay.
it doesn't mean that you have to do like a one word answer. It could be, it's just rapid fire.
I'll try to keep it brief.
I mean, do as I say, not as I do, clearly. So, yeah, best words of wisdom for people newly diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis.
Oh, I think we already talked about this, patience. 100%. You need to develop patience. You need to be patient. It's going to take time to understand your disease, to understand how it works in your body, to find the right treatment, to find the right way. Yeah, it's patience,
Mhm.
100%. And be kind to yourself. Don't, beat yourself up for not being able to do something you think you should do, or
Mm,
yeah, you know, be kind and patience and be kind to yourself. Put yourself first, really,
I love that. I
really.
really love that. And that, yeah,
Yeah.
Whew, I'm still learning those two things. um, do you have, you may not, that's okay. Do you have a favorite arthritis gadget or tool in your toolbox that you use kind of on?
I do. I have two of them. So I have a jar opener, a big rubber jar opener that I absolutely love
Yes.
because, I just love it to pieces. And my husband a couple of years ago got me a paraffin bath.
Hmm.
Um, so, it's for I dip my hands into this beautiful hot wax and it's just lovely.
Oh man, I have one of those and it smells like lavender and it's amazing. Love them.
Yeah.
Do you have, this might be hard, this is a very open-ended, but do you have a favorite book or movie or show that you've been watching recently? This is me loving pop culture, so or pop media.
Oh my God. Well, books, I cannot narrow down a favorite book at all. I have so many favorite books, so many favorite authors. The one that I'm reading right now, I absolutely love,
Okay.
and it's called We All Love Jack.
Okay.
And it's about an 800 page comprehensive book about the history of Jack the Ripper. And I am enthralled with it. It's just the writing is fantastic. It's gone just right into the history of that whole time of the 1800s in Whitechapel, London, or England. It's just, yeah, it's fascinating. There's so many, but I love so many books. And I don't watch a lot of TV. I read a lot,
Mm.
but I mean, recently, I had this isn't very recent. This is probably maybe about 4 years old now. There was a show that I absolutely loved called Killing Eve.
Yes.
And it had Sandra Oh in it, and this beautiful blonde English lady who just played the perfect villain, and I just loved that show
Oh, that's on my
because
list.
I love shows. Oh, I love shows where you just love the villain,
Yeah,
like it's just, yeah. It's a fun show. It's
that's
fun, so you should
amazing.
watch it.
That's amazing. I was just listening on one of my podcasts. They were talking about how like Ursula is from Little Mermaid is just like the perfect villain. And how I was like, that's such a good point. Yeah. What is so fascinating about villains? Um, do you have, on a different note, do you have a favorite like mantra or inspirational saying that you say to yourself when things are tough?
Tomorrow is a new day with no mistakes in it. And that is actually from Anne of Green Gables.
That, yes,
She's
that's
one of
my favorites too.
she's one of my literary heroes. I read that book to pieces when I was a kid. In fact, I thought I was Anne from Anne of Green Gables when I was a kid.
Okay.
So
I'm not kidding you. The two people that I thought I was were Pippi Longstocking, and both my siblings have red hair, so I was like jealous of the red hair, and so I was like, but I really deep down I identify as being a redhead. I am, yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah. Sorry, you just hit on my favorite book. Yeah, I always say Anna Green Gables and Little Women were the books I read over and over and over. Just love them. Um, is there anything specific that's been bringing you joy lately?
well, my writing life, because I write every day. Um, Obviously, having just done the choreography for that show brought me great joy. And actually, in January, I'll be back in rehearsals for another theater show where I will be actually acting on the stage. So that'll be the first time in about 4 years because it was pre-COVID. 2019 was my last show on stage. So this is going to be my, first show on stage since that time. So
Well,
yeah,
I only live a couple hours south of you, so I might have to come visit, make a Canadian visit, dust off the old
there you go.
passport.
There
Um,
are there are
yeah,
there are matinees, so you'd be able to come out for the afternoon and then be able to go back home.
yeah, no, that'd be great. Actually, great, good point. Um, and then what does it mean to you to live a good life and thrive with rheumatic disease?
What does it mean to me?
I know that's kind of an open-ended one.
Hmm. Um, well, I think it's important. I think, you either find a way to thrive or you just don't have any life at all, right? Like, um, yeah, I don't know, that's a tough question. That feels like a question that could take a long time to answer.
Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of funny that
yeah,
I put that down, and I feel like you've actually shown, that whole writer maxim or axiom of writing where it's like show don't tell. I feel like you
mm,
showed through all of your answers what it means to thrive, uh being resilient, adaptive, looking at what's possible in your life rather than only thinking about what you can't do. Think what is possible, how can I get there, problem solving, and continue
yeah,
to do things you love.
yeah.
Seems like that's my little summary.
That works.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. I know. Anyway, I don't really understand the concept of rapid fire clearly because They're more like a set of questions I want to like, and some of the podcasts I listen to, they do like a kind of, these are the questions we always ask at the end kind of thing. But anyway, do you have anything else you want to share with the listeners before we wrap it up? The listeners or the watchers on YouTube?
Oh gosh. I don't know. I think I would just say, ooh, I just take some time to understand yourself. Take some time to know yourself. Um, and don't be afraid to say no to people. Honor what you're feeling on any given day. And yeah, just, really, yeah, I'm not articulating it very well, but just really just honor yourself, right? I think that's the best thing to say is just honor yourself and um, don't feel sad if you can't do something that you want to do because it doesn't mean you can't ever do it.
Mm,
It just means maybe right now you can't, but maybe sometime down the line you will. So give yourself the time and be patient.
yeah, I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah,
What I'm hearing through this is like living in the moment versus focusing on or being present, honoring the
yeah.
present moment exactly where you are, which that's taken me a long time to do as well. And I mean, I followed all your points. I was writing them down because I didn't want to forget, even though this is being recorded. Know yourself. Don't be afraid to say no. I need to hear that every single day because again, I have that people pleasing gene where I just, and also it's like it's weird. It's a
It's
weird form of like, don't flatter yourself too much. Like the world's going to keep spinning if I don't say yes to a project. You know what I mean? Like, but
yeah,
some say,
it's powerful to say no.
yeah,
I think it's powerful to say no. It's a powerful thing to go, no, not this time.
yeah,
And to say it and know that it's the right decision for you,
yeah.
right? Don't make it the right decision for somebody else. Make it the right decision for you.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I think it starts with defining your self-worth as you are worthy. Because sometimes I think me saying yes to
Mhm.
things is because I think, well, they won't love me. I won't be worthy if I don't say yes. I'm going to let them down and then they won't like me anymore. And they need to like me because everyone has to like me because that's the rules.
Maybe maybe this is the thick skin you get from acting because you get rejected 20 years of your life.
I have heard that. I've heard
But
that. Yeah.
I'm at that, there are some times where I just go, I don't care what you think.
No, that's so healthy.
Right?
That is part of your mental health.
And because yeah,
With the power
because you
vested in
have
me, I'm
to, you
defining
know.
you as mentally healthy. I have actually no. I am not a diagnosed occupational therapists do not diagnose, just by the way, for anyone listening.
No,
I'm
no.
being tongue in cheek. But yeah, that's a really good, you have had a lot of
They
practice with rejection as an actress. Yeah.
yeah. Well, in any artistic
Yes.
like in any artistic thing, right? Writing, acting, there's lots of rejection out there, and it's understanding that it's not you and it's not personal,
Yeah. And
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
being on social media has given me the
yeah,
best. Being on social media in my mid to late 30s through now early 40s that's been like two kind of good forces combining to really reinforce to me that you can't please everyone. You shouldn't try to please everyone. And yeah, the world will keep spinning if everyone doesn't give you positive feedback 24/7.
wait until you get into your 50s and you'll really understand that.
Oh, I'm real excited. No, I'm like thrilled to be, yeah, getting hopefully aging like a fine wine, hopefully.
Right.
Yeah. And so I forgot to say earlier that your name is Julia, but you go by JG, uh, Chayko
Yeah,
profession.
professionally. So in my writing, I go by JG Chayko.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's your website, jgchayko.com, right?
Correct. Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So, well, thank you so, so much for taking the time especially for going on some of my off-road adventures on some of my questions where I'm like, wait, how are you like this? Help me be like you. No. And I just really
This is
appreciated it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
What are
wonderful.
you gonna
Thank you
say?
so much for having me. It's finally it's been so lovely to actually chat with you after having,
Yeah, you
sort of
too.
followed you over the years and yeah.
Yeah, like on Twitter, like, I agree with her. Yes, I like this article you wrote, and yeah, it's wonderful to interact in real time. And so hopefully everyone will check out your website and make sure if you're listening right now that you can, listen if you're listening, you can watch the interview of this on YouTube. I'm trying to remind people of that on the Arthritis Life YouTube channel, or you can go to the website if you want to get like a full transcript. I find that I'm not actually I'm not a strong auditory learner. I learn a lot better through reading than listening. So if you want to read
Mhm.
the transcript, you're like, oh, what did she say about this? I want to kind of have a chance to read it. You can go to the Arthritis Life website, myarthritislife.net. So thank you again, Julia. We'll talk to you later. See you on the stage.
Thank you so much. Yes.